back to my channel. Another very humid day, much prefer it inside today. I went out a moment ago for a 45-minute walk. Didn't want to stay out any longer than that because it's just so very humid out there, rather oppressive. It's horrible noisy planes. Yeah, it's not very nice outside. Much prefer it inside. Got the blinds drawn because that keeps it cooler. So what else we going on? Well, this morning I've been knitting another butterfly, but I made a yellow one this time. I will show it to camera when I've finished it. I've finished knitting it because I just was practicing my increase and decrease. But I was also stitching some felt onto it, and also need to stitch on some buttons as well for spots. So when it's all complete, which it should be soon, I will show you it. And I've also been learning how to use my French knitter. It took me a little while to get the hang of it, but I think I have got the hang of it now, and I've got a cord coming out of the bottom, which looks all very nice, because I'm trying to make a handle for my bag. Once you know how to use it, it's dead easy. It's just that some of the tutorials on YouTube are a bit confusing, but then I use the pictures in my book as well, and then it was like, oh yeah, obviously that's how you do it, and it makes sense. You have to be quite patient though, because it does take a little bit of time, but it's quite relaxing doing it. So I wanted to carry on. The other thing in news is I made a very nice asparagus quiche the other day in my cooking. It was a Tesco recipe. Hadn't made a quiche for a very long time. I feel like I can improve it. I feel like I can always improve recipes. There's always room for improvement. But considering I hadn't made a quiche for a long time, it tasted very, very nice. I had some today as well, left over that I heated in a microwave, and I've got some more in the freezer for instant defrost when I feel like I need. I might have some more for lunch actually tomorrow, because I make quite a big quiche, so that'll keep me going for a few lunches. It's very nice, nice quiche. I might make another one at some point, because homemade quiche is so nice. Anyway, so that's just a little bit of things I've been up to. I wanted to carry on from where I left off in my last video, talking about autism and traits that affect me. One of you asked in the comments where I get my insight from into my problems. And I guess, I don't know, I guess it's a combination really of learning as I go on, what makes me me, a lot of reflection over the years, a lot of therapy over the years, a lot of reading over the years, things people have told me, and just reflecting on things people have told me, my reading, and also what I've learnt about myself. Has helped me gain some understanding of myself. I guess that would answer that question. I'm quite a sort of introspective person anyway. I do tend to think about things a lot and analyse things. So going on then, talking about traits, autism traits. So I talked about obviously growing up, my social interaction problems. Now I had real difficulty making friends growing up, primarily with my peer group. However, I was not in the least bit aloof. Far from it. I wanted to connect with other kids. I wanted to try and play with them. It wasn't like I wanted to be on my own. I enjoyed playing with other kids when I could, when they let me. So I wasn't aloof or anything. I had, I guess, what you call a more active but odd profile, in the sense that I was active socially, in that I tried to connect with other kids, but I did it in a rather inappropriate, odd, unusual manner, and consequently I found it very hard to make and maintain friendships, particularly with my peer group. It was a bit easier playing with younger kids, and most of the relationships, I guess most of the play-based. I don't think you could call them relationships in a true sense. It's more kind of like playmates, I guess, kids I played with, as opposed to like, I don't know, I never had any real close friendships as such, but I had times when I would play with kids younger than me, like some kids who lived in, some neighbours' kids, who were all younger than me. One of them was 4 years younger than me, the other was 2.5 years younger than me, so they were all younger than me, so they weren't like my peer group. I would play with them sometimes. I often fell out with them as well though, so it's a bit hit and miss. I did play with them now and again. It was like, playing on our bikes and stuff like that. and but at school, I didn't have most of the time. I didn't really have any friends in the true sense of the word. Like, but there was one girl in my class at primary school who I did befriend. She was in my class at primary school, and I think because her mum like sort of chatted to my mum at the school gates, and also her younger brother was in my brother's year, and they kind of got on a bit. You know, it was arranged that she came round to my house for tea sometimes, I went round to her house sometimes, and towards the end of primary school I became more in the way of a true friend of hers, and that was the first time I'd had an actual friend in my peer group, and that sort of happened, although I was on and off friends with her before that, I mainly was friends with her sort of in year 5 and particularly in year 6. Year 5 and year 6 was when I kind of became more in the way of friends with her, but it was a very on-off friendship, so I could only be friends with her when she was coming over to my house, or I was going over to her house. When she was coming round to my house, or I was going over to her house, we would like we would be like with each other all day at school and playing with each other. But when she wasn't going round to my house, when she was going round to another girl's house, then she wasn't. Then she said, "I don't want to play with you because I'm going round to her house and I'm going to play with her." And yeah, so it's kind of on off, and also I often broke up with her, and I could be quite annoying, and I annoyed her and fell out with her and things like that, and then we'd be friends again, then we'd fall out again, and yeah. But it was fun while I was friends with her, and she was the only person in my peer group that I was on off friends with, and I think that's also why year 6 was the best year of school for me, because that was the longest time I had a proper friend in my year group. But sadly, when we went to secondary school, she went to the same secondary school as me, all that stopped. It just completely stopped, and then she sort of became a bit annoying and like used to pick on me and stuff, although she could still be nice at times, but we weren't friends anymore, unfortunately. It changed. And also she did things I didn't like she started smoking, and she kind of had a kind of I don't know, sort of lifestyle that didn't gel with me as well, which meant I didn't really want to be her friend anymore, which is sad. But when we were at primary school, and when she was nice to me, that was fun. And that was the one time I actually had a friend. Yeah, I enjoyed that time. So yeah, so as I say, it wasn't like I was aloof. I did want friends. It's just that I really struggled, particularly with my peer group. And most of the time, the kids I played with were younger than me. I would sometimes play with kids in the playground, other than that girl I talked about, but they were usually younger than me. And also they usually had issues, and it's interesting that the people I did play with all turned out to later on have an autism diagnosis. Not the girl in my class who I played with didn't, by the way, although she was a little bit, she wasn't exactly the most kind of able of kids. How can I put it? I don't think she had any neurodevelopmental conditions, but I mean anything's possible. I don't think she wasn't autistic though, but I think she had some slight learning difficulties or something. Like she wasn't like top of class or anything. But yeah, most of the kids I played with were rather unusual, and the younger ones I played with all later on turned out to be autistic, which is interesting. One of them in my brother's year as well, but she wasn't diagnosed till later on. It's like we sort each other out. But yeah, social interaction problems, because other than that one girl I talked about, which was very off and on, I was very struggled with the whole friendship thing, and being appropriate and interaction often annoys people, often fell out. Disrupted the kids' play, didn't really know how to kind of interact properly. But there were times when I did get on with kids, so it was kind of off and on. I think if other kids went out of their way to interact with me and we were playing a very rule-bound game, like skipping or something like that, it went fine. But if it involved any kind of more interactive elements, then forget about it. It tended to go rather pear-shaped. And things only got worse at secondary school, when I found it even harder to interact with people, because then of course it moves away from like playing and more towards talking and that kind of thing, and I just did not have a clue. And I was very clingy, followed people around too much because I didn't know how to relate, how I didn't know what to talk about, the things they were talking about, I didn't know how to interact and everything. So that was very difficult. Again, of course, also my OCD got a lot worse as a teenager, which obviously complicated things still further and added to the difficulty. But mostly got particularly worse, funnily enough, once I became a true loner, and I sometimes wonder whether the isolation actually contributed to me developing OCD. Like I didn't really have other people to kind of learn about the world, so I tended to kind of, I think that also can make you more anxious as well. isolation is not good for your mental health in that respect. Okay, I'm going to move over to video number 2 now because I want to talk about some other autism traits that affect me. So moving on to video number 2.